We are back. We were able to make a post correctly. We were able to add a post. We were able to see the post in our application. But a couple things we need to do. We need to go ahead and sort by date. We need to show a date and sort by date such that new post coming in is the top post at the top. And we'll add in a refresh control so we're not always restarting the application to see new post. So those are the two things we're after. And we'll stop for today and we'll pick up again on Monday. So let's go ahead and do that. I don't think I need this anymore. So let's go to the lab questions controller. Everybody go to the lab questions controller. Go to where we set the questions. Where do we get the questions? We got the questions in fetch questions right here. In fetch questions, we want to sort by date. So in load questions, go to your load questions. Go to your load questions in the lab questions controller. I'm in the lab questions controller. And I want to sort by date. We have some nice utility functions for us to use in the extension. In my extension, I have, let's go to the extension. I'm talking about the string extension. If I go to my string extension, here, I have, which one returns date? This one, right here. I have a function returns me a date. I pass it some string, it returns me a date. It's amazing. So here we'll be able to get a date and we're able to sort by date. You could sort by date. This function will help us do that. It has an ISO date string. We'll use that ISO date string to get back a date and we'll sort by that particular date. So let's go do that. In my load questions, on my questions here, on line 39, let's go ahead and sort it by date. So sort by date. The objects we have are questions. Each question has a created at. Part of when you're doing closure syntax like that, you might not see right away that your variable autocompletes, but keep typing and it will autocomplete the minute Xcode realizes your intention. So here we have some ISO string to date. We will put the earliest date or the latest date first. Latest date first. And here created at .iso string to date. Something is off. Created at, did I not call this created at? What am I doing there? Created at ISO string to date. Let me verify one thing here. Created at, oh, okay, thank you so much. So here, let's go back to your model. Go back to your question model and remove the comments here on the created at. Build your application. So go back to your question model, not posted question. The question model is the one coming from the web. Comment out your created at and go back to your view controller. And this is probably not spelled correctly. I'm sorry? ISO, what is this called? ISO, let me verify this name. It's spelled correctly? Oh, a function. It's a function, not a variable. Okay, great. So what are we doing here? We have a string, it's called created at. We pass the string to our function in our extension. It returns us a date. So here, what are we doing? We're sorting by date. Sorting by date, most recent. Sorting by most recent date. Sorting by most recent date. right? That's the only way to really sort by date here. You need to get the actual date object. And to get the date object, remember our strings are ISO dates. So our ISO date string gets converted to a date object. So that's what I need to write in here. So convert this particular function here converts an ISO date string to a date object. We need those date objects so we can sort our lab questions. Cool? And again, date could be very complicated. The date extension we have there, you could use it throughout your projects. And feel free to add more utility functions you need there as you need. So here, the simple objective is to get two objects, compare their dates. The most recent date should be at the top of our table view. Okay? This is why we have the more than sign there. The more than sign is descending. Descending. If I wanted ascending, that would be the oldest date. If I wanted descending, I want the most recent date, it's more than. Okay? Any questions about that? So here, this is a descending assort with the more than sign. So I'll put it again because that could be one of the terminologies that could be a bit confusing. So ascending, here we are sorting descending. Descending, I'll put alphabetical order here. I'll put Z to A. Z to A, or in our case, it would be like 11. What time is it? It would be like 12:50. It would be like 12:50 p.m. and then it would be like 11 a.m. All right, everybody, see where I'm going? All right, if I created some lab at 12:50, that would be at the top. The next one at 11 a.m. would be at the bottom. Right? That's descending. And ascending is obviously in the other order. It would be 11 a.m. would be at the top, and 12:50 would be at the bottom. Okay? Any questions about that? Again, the terminology could take us off sometimes. So descending, remember descending is big to small. Ascending is small to big. So here ascending is A to Z. Okay, oh, I forgot one more thing. The most important part is this symbols here. Descending would be this, more than sign, and ascending would be less than sign. And that's coming from here. Okay? Cool? Questions about descending, ascending, sorting by date? Make sure the created at is uncommented. Go back to your question and make sure. Double check Tiff's computer and see. She got it. Good. Good. All right, so let's continue. Let's go to the cell for row. Are we still working on this one? Let's go to cell for row, because cell for row right now does not show us our date. It only says subtitle. So let's go and update this. In my cell for row, I'll say cell dot detailed text label. So detailed text label is the second label in the text, in the cell, right? On that, we have our text. And on this, we have access to the question. Question has a created at. If we don't do anything at this point, we will just have like 2019 dash whatever, dash whatever, followed by some Z number. We don't want that. We want to convert it to a more human readable format. So again, in our extension, we have a method that we wrote. And that method is called convert ISO date. So here, we'll simply type in convert ISO date. It returns a string. Let's take a look at that convert ISO date. Command click on it. Command click on convert ISO date. And this is what it does. It takes in, well, a string. It doesn't take in any arguments, but it knows itself, right? So some string that convert ISO date returns a string, right? It uses our ISO date formatter. Remember, if you're working with an ISO date, you have to stick with ISO date formatters. So you have an ISO date formatter. It takes the string, which is self. Self is the string. It uses our better known date formatter. That other date formatter, the only function of it is to say I want my month followed by day, followed by year, followed by hour, followed by minutes, followed by AM or PM. There's two date formatters that we use. One is the ISO date formatter, which is baked in with ISO standard. The next is how do I want it to appear. The how do I want it to appear is date formatter, right? This date formatter here. How do I want my date to appear? Do I want the month before the year? Do I want the year before the month, right? Do I care about AM, PM on my time? So that returns us a string based on the format we want. This format will say, it will spell out the entire month. It will say December, the day, 2019, the hour, the minutes, and AM or PM. The A, the small a there, is AM or PM. And if you need more information on this, wow, it's that time, huh? If I need more information on this, I simply type in into Google, NS date formatter. I'll stack it out. We have it already somewhere. We bookmarked it. Christian said, definitely we did. So this NS date formatter, at any point, if you want to use your own sort of formatting, this is the website you go to. Because to memorize this, we don't memorize that. That's one of the things you're not going to memorize. Somebody's not going to ask you that in an interview randomly. Like, how do you format EEEMD? What does that give us, right? If you get that, then just like walk away. Walk away nicely, right? And say thank you for the opportunity. Right? Developers, those are the things we're not going to store that in our head, right? We have sites for that. So this NS date formatter here, I will also slack it out. That's what, right? Antonio said it's bookmarked already. Do we get 100% confirmation? Okay, so we don't need to slack it out. I love it, love it. I didn't slack it. All right, cool. So let's get back to our cell. Thank you, thank you. Let's get back to our cell. All right, cool. So we have our date. Let's actually run the app again. Let's run the app again because there's one more piece of information I want to add to it, but I don't want to add it now before we run it and test it. Let's run the app. Wi-Fi, we need a spinner here. Okay. Do we all confirm that we see dates and they're sorted? Okay, let's get this bigger here. All right, so I have December 13th, 1254, followed by 1252. Right, so it's sorted, everything is great, wonderful. Next up, let's append the title, not the title, let's append the lab name. Let's append the lab name to the date title. Let's simply append the lab name here. Lab name is question, I'm back in the cell, question.lab name. I simply just appended the lab name, so when we run it again, we're able to see the lab name that's associated to it. And now we'll move on to the refresh control, the last part of the day. So here we have our questions. We really need a spinner here because the network is not that great. And that's not a good user experience, empty screens. Okay, so here we have, now we're able to see our lab names, correct? Are we able to see our lab names? Awesome. Cool, good. Let's move to the last part of it for the day. Can I, right here, right here. So I said plus Here, I added the lab name to it. In the cell for row. In cell for row on the lab question controller. You guys are having too much fun. I have the next question. Shania, again? Okay, so we appended the lab name to the date. That's it. Julia? Got it? Very good. Okay. Comedy hour.
It's hungry out.
We have 10 more minutes. We're good. You took like 3 breaks.
They were in snack breaks. They were in snack breaks. There's no reason they were.
What's that? Luba also said we did not ask for break.
She's right. You'll come back at 2:30.
It shouldn't be an optional. Lab name is not an optional anymore. Let's see. Is it an optional here? No, it's not an optional. Lab name is not an optional. Go back to your model and make sure lab name is not an optional. You might have it an optional. I just want us to get the refresh control, guys, and we're done for the day. The rest of the day is all yours. To party away and lab away. All right? Okay, so we have our refresh. Let's go up. We have this refresh control here. It's nil right now. Let's configure it. So right below my viewed load, I'll write some function called configure refresh control. And what does that do? I have my refresh control. Well, refresh control. I need to get it set up. I need to initialize it. Refresh control. No frame needed here. Every table view has a refresh control property. So on my table view, I will simply say refresh control gets assigned refresh control. So every table view has a refresh control. That refresh control is very similar to the indicator that we have on our image view. So the user pulls down on the table view, the refresh control spins while data is loading. When I get my data, I stop the refresh control. That's it. New today, we'll see some programmable target action using Objective-C runtime API. Right? So anytime you're using some sort of Objective-C runtime API, you have to prefix it with @Objective-C. Objective-C is still around. It's not going anywhere. The frameworks are still around, not going anywhere, right? Until Apple takes that framework and converts it entirely to Swift. It's still available only in Objective-C. We're not writing Objective-C code. We're calling it via a compiler directive. The compiler directive will be @Objective-C. We'll see what that looks like right now. So here we'll say refresh control. We'll add a target. So we'll say add target. This is very similar to an IB action. The more we do code development minus storyboard, the more we'll be doing our UI code or our UI setup in code. This add target here is very similar to an IB action. Okay? Here I have a UI. I want to present an action on that UI. When that UI gets activated, I want to call a function. Right? Very similar to have my button. I want to call an action on my button. I control drag from storyboard, correct? I control drag from storyboard for my button. I create an IB action, right? On my UI refresh control, I'll create an add target action to point to some function to run. So it's very similar to like control dragging, but only in code. This only works in code here, or works in code where I say my UI, add some target. That target will be some sort of function that I run at some point. Whenever that gets activated, run this function. It will be the load, yes, it will be the load questions. Very good. because that's what we want to run. Very good. So it will be the load questions, but where do we put it? The where do we put it will be in that action part. So right now, this accepts 3 arguments. The target, where should I look for it? Target is where should I look for it. When I control drag from storyboard, from my scene, I drag it to some view controller. That view controller is the target. What would be the target here? Self, very good. Bam, I could leave now. Right? The action, we'll see code we haven't seen yet. We'll start off with a hashtag. We'll say selector. Then very Objective-C. We have a hashtag selector. Selector is where should I look for that function. That selector will be the person where I put that function in. That parens there, that's where I put the function. Whatever the function is, I write out the function in the parens. The selector is the function to call. This will be load questions. And I put pound, yes. And what is the activity that I do? Anybody knows the activity? What's the activity? The activity on this particular refresh control is value changed. Very similar to your slider. Your slider, your stepper, the action that happens is the value change. When I go from 0 to 0.1, call this function. Oh, not even call this function, but do something. Anytime I change the value, do something. The value of the refresh control is when it's activated. Yes, very similar to that. With a button, it will be touch up inside, but the refresh control is not a button. Okay?
Is there like a value associated with?
The value would be internally. We don't have access to that value. But basically, when you pull it down, it gets activated because the table view now has it, a reference to it.
Is it a value change because now there's another?
It got pulled on. It got pulled on. Somebody activated it, right? Okay. There's one more error. That's the error that calls for the Objective-C runtime. If we click on the error, it says argument of selector refers to instance method that is not exposed to Objective-C. So we need to expose it by using the @Objective-C directive on the function. So at this point, we'll make that function accessible to the Objective-C runtime. Okay? And Objective-C now will be able to see it's an API that I understand and run the function. So we have one more step. We're not going to say fix it. We'll go to the function and we'll say @Objective-C. Like that. We'll build, error goes away. Well, not quite. What's happening here? Error goes away. Xcode, come on. So we say @Objective-C on the function we want to call. The function we want to call is load questions. Load questions is now part of the Objective-C runtime API because we have selected there. We have to explicitly say @Objective-C. Okay? Write it out until you're familiar with it, then you do fix it. But at this point, you should know what @Objective-C does. It exposes my load questions from just Swift only to Objective-C runtime. Cool? All right. We need to do one more thing. Our refresh control, when we pull down on it, it will keep spinning until we tell it to stop. So we need to tell it to stop. Very similar to, we don't have to tell it to start. The starting is once we pull it down, it's automatically is going to start, but we need to tell it to stop. Very similar to our activity indicator on our image view, we need to tell it to stop. So where do we tell it to stop here? So after, anywhere in that result here, I could tell it to stop here. So if I'm stopping it, can I just say refresh control, refresh, this is open, right? This is, yeah. All right, can I just say refresh control, come on, self dot refresh control. All statements. Oh, sorry, I'm in the wrong spot here. This is so big in front of my eye. Can I just say self dot refresh control dot end refreshing? I guess I probably give it away. Can I just do this here and be okay? Actually, let's take this off. That doesn't belong here. Let's put it right in here. Because we want to end it whether it has an error or whether it has success. Am I okay here? This is a UI update.
No. You gotta say dispatch.
I have to say dispatch queue because this is a UI update. Very similar to our show alert here. We also need to dispatch back to the main thread.
So if that's the case, instead of writing dispatch queue again, you just put it inside of what you already have.
In here,
Inside either, you could put it in both, because it's not gonna hit both of them. It's gonna hit
we'll just put it in one place. There's no reason to put it in both. I mean, we could put it in both, or we could just have a dispatch there. We could do either or. Right? So here we will stop the refresh. Wow, it's hard now. So dispatch main back to main, async here. 1 second. I will put some comments here. So this line of code will stop the refresh control from running when the data is back, when the completion handler has been completed. So stop refresh control and hide. Or it hides automatically. So it will get called when, or we want to call it when the completion handler returns. The completion handler returns the minute we get back in this block. The minute we're in that closure, we're back from the network, and we could stop the refresh. At this point, either it has an error, or either it has a success. Okay? What's that?
Well, you just make a new one for the dispatch. You just make a new dispatch for the same.
Just for the UI, yeah. Okay, I think we have enough information to run the app and test it out. Somebody's going to create some post. Let's run the app. Fatal error. Oh, we're not calling, I know where the fatal error is coming from. Make sure to call configure refresh control in your video load. Make sure to call configure. Okay, Xcode, I know. Make sure to call configure refresh control here. Make sure to call configure refresh control in your view load and run the app again. Because if you run it, the refresh control is nil, it will crash. Right? Because we haven't called configure refresh control, so make sure to call that in view load. Okay? We have good data. Fatal error. Okay, let me see if I refresh. Pull down. I got eggplant emoji. Pull down. But where's the emoji though? All right, so as we pull down, do we see more data coming in? Right? Let's see, pull down again. Pull down, what's for lunch? That's a question of the day. Is Alex my dad? Okay. I think I know who that person is. All right, cool. Any questions?
And are we gonna put the delete thing to it, like how we can delete or how we can rearrange them? Like how we
The
can-
ultimate, for now, I'm the one deleting. For now, I'm the one deleting. Nobody else will be able to delete other people's posts. I'm the one deleting. Mr. Hart, please don't go away and delete by yourself. Right? So for now, we could add, we could read. Meaning we could get, we could post. So far, so good?
Yeah.
Okay. So I want us to, over the weekend, I will zip out a project, start a project. Over the weekend, as we review, I want us to rebuild that project. Everybody? So where we started yesterday, we started with an empty, we had the UI, but I want us to go and build it again. Everybody? Okay, cool. All right, any questions so far? Any other questions? We covered a lot. Monday, we might come back and do some more on that project. Maybe we add answers to it. But for now, we know how to get, we know how to post. We know where the code is. Again, the assessment is open book. We just have to know where to go, what the thing is doing. Cool? Thank you. Question number 9.
Refresh it one more time.
Oh, refresh. 1 second. This guy. Okay. Yeah, this guy. 1 second. Let's do one more thing. There's always one more thing. Let's just do one more thing. I really want to see some. Let's do one more thing. Let's do one more thing. One more. Go to where it has the number of questions. Number of questions. Refresh. Where do we have the refresh? 1 second. Refresh. Load questions. In load questions, where we actually getting all the questions right here. Simply do a dispatch there. Do main. And do async here. And simply do self. Navigation item. Dot title equal to questions that count. It's in the, make sure you're in the success block. I'm inside of the success block for the load questions. Load questions in the cases, right outside of our sorted part there. Right where we sort in. Load questions. Go to where your case success is.
Right, I'm saying I have a dispatch menu already. I didn't need one initially.
No, you need one for what we're doing right now.
But I didn't need one initially.
No. Oh, no. If you're just doing for the self-dot questions, no, you don't need one for that. All right, so questions that count. And here we simply say lab questions. That's it. That's all we are doing. Okay, so lab questions, we just want to know how many questions we have. That's it. That's all we added. How many questions do we have? So the title will show us how many questions we have. Run the app again and we are done. So running app. And we have lab questions. It loads, 75 questions. That's it. Cool? Awesome. So we're going to stop here. Thank you. We'll continue Monday, and maybe we add answers on Monday. Thank you so much.